my life, removing pain. Lord, let my words heal a heart that hurts. I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life mending broken people. Hello and welcome to 3ABN. My name is John Lomacang, and here we are in Coral Springs, Florida with the Grady family. Many of you may have heard about the tragic shooting at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. And we have the privilege today and an opportunity to interview one of the young ladies that is a student at the Douglas High School. February 14th was a day that changed Parkland for, I would say, forever. And the events that surrounded that day are going to be recounted and shared through the life of Samantha Grady. Samantha, it's so good to have you here today. Matter of fact, it's good to be in your home. And since we are not strangers, it's good to see Sally and Jim. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to come in your home today. And we know that with what happened at Douglas High School, it's still fresh in your mind. It's something that you will be living for some time. And I know that with the tragedies and the things that continue to happen as a result of that day, we are just praying for you. And we have been praying for you. And we thank you for just giving us the opportunity, even though we are family friends. Thank you for taking the time to tell us the story. And Jim and Sally, thank you for opening your home up to us and giving us the chance to get the story. I want to just dive right into it. Samantha, take us back to February 14th at Douglas High School.
Okay, so as usual, I was running late because, unfortunately, but that morning I had a lot of things to do. The night before, I had this concert, all county, with my orchestra, and I played in that. So I was sleep deprived, and I had a test the next day, and I was completely out of it. But I had to go rush to my teacher, get my course card signed, and I had a lot of things to do that day. So as soon as I got to school, I was rushing to do that. And most days when I'm on time, I meet with my friend Helena, and we walk to class together, or we have we chat before school. But I didn't have time to see her today because I had to do a lot of other things. So I went to my class, AP Psych, and suffered through my test. And then I met up with Helena, and she gave me a little Valentine, with a person's picture on it that she knew that I like, and then a nice lollipop. Mm-hmm. And I was really touched because she knew exactly what I liked, mm-hmm. And I cried. Because that's just who I am. When someone gives me something, I'm just oh my goodness, thank you so much. And so I was really touched. And then we separated, and I had to go to my personalization class, and I was doing some homework. And then there was a fire drill, and then we all got up, we left, we came back in, and it was nothing really big, because it was just okay, fire drill. It's a routine, yeah. And we were kind of annoyed by it because I just got situated. And the thing is, with fire drills now, I have to take everything up. So I just put all my stuff down, and then I had to take them all up and go out. So that's pretty much my day. And then lunch, and then we sat lunch, we talked together. There's a group of us at lunch with Helena and a few other friends, and we were talking. And making jokes, watching videos, mm-hmm. things that teenagers do. And then I went to physics in my class, and then I went to Holocaust after physics. And
And fire drills at your school are not a small event. How many students about are at Marjory Stone Douglas High School?
Around almost 4,000.
Wow.
So it's a really, really big school.
So when they say fire drill, everybody has to go out.
I mean, we all separated into our different zones.
Okay.
So they just put that regulation in like a month ago, actually. So we're all separated into our different zones. So some teachers go here and other teachers go another place. So it's not all confusion, because it used to be like everyone just get out, but now it's more organized.
And what are some of the things that they did that day because of the fire drill?
Well, I mean, what we did in the first fire drill, just in the fire drill, we left the class, we took all of our bags and stuff. Some people didn't, because after a month you kind of start to get a little lackadaisical with everything, so you just don't think it's as important as it used to be. So we just went to the senior parking lot. We lined up, and the teacher counted us to make sure we were all there, and then they held up a sign saying all of our students are here. Then we just waited for the bell to ring, and then we went back to class, and then we did what we had to do in the class.
So that takes all about how long?
Took more like a 20-minute.
Okay.
Yeah, because the administrators had to go around and check everything,
So the fire drill happened about what time of the day?
Around like 9:30.
Okay, early part of the day.
Yeah.
Kind of get it out of the way, not to break a class. But after you had already gotten situated, you thought, wow, we could really do without a fire drill.
Yeah.
But when you look back on it, some of the things that happened because of the fire drill were keys to keeping the casualties down. Because just to kind of clarify, is it true that some of the classrooms remained locked because of the fire drill? How does that happen?
According to my teacher, that morning, for some reason, thank goodness, the school decided to reinforce all of the security measures that they previously made, because as I was saying before, a lot of people were kind of they were getting a little bit lazy with it, keeping their doors unlocked, so they wouldn't be bothered by students going to the bathroom. But this time they made sure every door has to be locked, which really, really helped and saved multiple lives. So yeah, all of the doors just are locked in general, not necessarily because of the fire drill, but in general.
Okay.
So if a student has to go to the restroom, the teacher has to they can open the door and go, but the teacher has to finish, stop the lesson, then go open the door for them when they come back. So, I mean, I'm happy that those security measures were put in place.
Yeah, that proved to be significant, as you said, keeping the casualty count down. But there's something else that happened on February 14th. You have a particular family routine, how you start your day. Let's talk about that.
So in the morning, after I get dressed and I rush and eat, me and my mother, since my father's not awake yet, because it's really early in the morning, we have worship. We read a scripture. Sometimes we sing a song, and then we talk about the scripture and what it means. And then after that, we pray, and then we start the day of going to school.
And that particular day, bringing your mom, Sally, so good to have you here. Tell us through the microphone what scripture you read that day.
Psalms 22, and it was, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And Samantha said to me, but ma'am, this was what Jesus said when he was dying on the cross. And I said, yes. And she said, but I didn't know it was in, David wrote about it. And I said, yes. And I started to give her, a little quick synopsis of David when he was run away from Saul.
Right.
Yeah, and then afterwards, because we didn't have a lot of time, I said to her, remember, you're almost through high school now. You only have a year and some more months to go, and you have to be a witness. God have you at this school for a specific reason, and someone there needs to know about God.
That's right. And we noticed that, by the way, as we talk about just peeking into the interview and what was seen on NBC and maybe some other networks, there was a piece that you had that I think contributed to the routine you have in your family of praying and beginning your day with God. But then on that particular day, you always have a particular prayer that you pray before you take Samantha to school.
Yes.
And what was it that day?
Yes, we prayed. We knelt and she prayed, and I always prayed last. And I prayed and said, Lord, I'm asking you to take us, to bring us safe on the road. keep Samantha safe in school and bring her back home safe to us. We pray this prayer every day. And there was many times I say, Lord, we cannot make it without you going and leading. Okay. And that was the prayer.
But what meaning does that have to you, beginning your day with God?
When I don't have worship, I do kind of feel a sense of unease. Mm-hmm. So like when I did it as a routine, I didn't think it was like important, but when I don't have it, I know that like I'm missing something. Mm-hmm. So it definitely does generate some type of calm, it does make me feel more like protected, or that I'm okay going out in the world, and I'm not more safe, but like, I'm more
feeling more comfortable.
Feel more comfortable.
Confident that you're not going by yourself.
Yes.
That the Lord is with you. Take us back. So you had the fire drill. Everybody's back in class. What subject were you in at that particular time?
Well, during the fire, I was in a personalization or study hall.
Okay.
So I just had the whole 2 hours to myself, to do homework and stuff. Yeah.
And so now, take us to the scene as it unfolded. The school is pretty much relaxed. Take us to the moments leading up to that tragic event.
So I was in my Holocaust class, which is a class dedicated to knowing about the Holocaust and spreading awareness. And we were doing this eyewitness program where we were listening to the tales of Holocaust survivors and the trials that they go through, more specifically of the Olympics, I believe, of 1936 in Germany. We were focusing mainly on that. And I was typing on my computer, which took me a while to get on because it was the internet was going crazy. But I finally got on and I was typing my responses, watching the videos, typing the little paragraphs, and I was also listening to some music. And I went, because that's what me and my friend, we kind of just it's not we just had this bond over something, and I wanted to show her something, so I'm just look at this, and she's like, oh, I don't know what that is. But so I'm just oh, okay. And then I took out my phone because I wanted to show her another picture.
Is this Helena?
Yes, my friend Helena.
Okay.
I took out a phone because I wanted to show a picture of someone, and then I heard the shot. My friend Amanda, my good friend, she was sitting to the right of me, and she ran as soon as she heard it because I guess her body just identified it and it took action. But it took me a few seconds because I heard the first shot. I'm just okay, that's a thing. Is this real? And then the second one, it still didn't process, but I identified it, but my body was still slow to react because I've never ever heard a gunshot in my life before that, except on television, and you don't really know when you're gonna identify it. Yeah, because it's television.
Was it loud?
Very much so. Very, very loud. It wasn't deafening, but it was very, I could tell it was close. Mm-hmm. That's how I knew it was something bad. But my friend, Helena, she was behind me. She pushed my shoulder and said, Sam. And that really jolted me. Mm-hmm. So I ran to the left side of the classroom by this huge bookshelf. And there was 2 cabinets there. One big metal cabinet, and then the one tiny little cabinet, and there's this big TV, not a TV, but it's a smart board, this big smart board. So we all ran there, and we huddled together, trying to get out of the line of shot as much as possible. There was these guys there, they were very brave, but they stood up and they pushed one of the cabinets over us. Not over us, but trying to block it as much as they could before the guy came to our classroom, because when the first shots occurred, he didn't come to our classroom. Okay. He went to 2 others previously, and people in the hallway, unfortunately, they were hit first. Mm-hmm. So we had a little time to move ourselves away from the door, out of the line of shot. So they pushed the cabinet in front of us. We were crouching, all squished together, and then my friend Helena behind me, she's grab a book, maybe it'll help, grab a book. I held a book, I grabbed any book I could find. I wasn't really concerned. I held it up. It was such a tiny book, I really don't think it helped, but it was more of a defense mechanism, just holding it up, just
Yeah, reactionary.
Yeah, so something that I felt a little safer. One thing though, that I remember, for some reason, I was completely and I was my body was shaking, but I was calm. And I just had this surety, nothing's gonna happen to me. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I mean,
You felt this peace.
I felt this peace. I'm like, I'm not gonna die. I knew for a fact I am not going to die. Not like, reassuring myself, oh, I'm not gonna die, I'm not gonna die, this is not gonna happen. It was just, it was
Almost
a
like
fact.
a confirmation.
Yes, it was a confirmation. I'm like, I'm not gonna die. And as soon as I went to them, I was praying constantly. I'm like, God, it's all in your hands. I didn't even say, help me. It was like, it's all in your hands. You know what you're doing. It's all in your hands. I mean, I don't know why I prayed that prayer, but it just felt right. I'm like, it's all in your hands. Everything is in your hands. And then going on, my friend Helena, she was behind me, told me the book. I held the book up, and then you could feel the impacts, not necessarily on us, but it was heavy. You could feel it hitting the wall. There's a certain thing to a gun. You just know something's firing. You could hear the impact hitting the wall, and then I felt it hitting my friend. And
by then, had he broken through, or?
Yes, he didn't come in the classroom because, as I said previously, thankfully the doors were locked, and he was kind of looking for a door, but he was very much concerned about himself, so he didn't want to be seen, so he didn't really open the door and hey, I'm here. So he shot through the window. There's a little glass rectangular thing. He shot through the window multiple times, so he could first get through the window, because our windows are designed to kind of be a little barrier to a gunshot.
So are they big windows or little windows?
No, they're tiny windows, but they have zigzags on them.
Yes.
So it doesn't go straight through. Something like a bullet doesn't go straight through. So he shot a few times, trying to get a hole big enough, and then he continued to shoot in our classroom, trying to shoot as much people, just randomly. Thankfully, he didn't do specific. He was just randomly as much as he could. But it ended up hitting my friend and hitting this guy, Nick, who was right next to me. He unfortunately died, and then unfortunately my friend did as well.
Did you see the immediate impact on the people that were hit next to you?
Kind of. It was more it was kind of slow motion, because I seen Nick. He was standing a little away from me, and then he laid down next to me. Not laid down, but he
collapsed.
He kind of collapsed next to me, and I was still moving away, closer to the people that I was with, because I was kind of a little visual. You couldn't see me completely, but I was. If I moved my head a little bit, I could see him. So I'm just if I can see him, he could probably see me. So I was trying to move closer to the people in front of me, and I was completely on top of this guy. I mean, I don't know him, but I was completely on top of this guy, trying to get away. And then my friend, she got hit multiple times, I believe. Yeah, and
Is that Helena?
Helena, yes. I seen her not fall over, but slump to the right. And I mean, I knew, in my mind, I'm just I just seen this. But it didn't, I had to push it away because he was still firing. And I'm I can't concentrate on that right now. There was people crying. And there was this girl, she was crying. She was texting everyone she knew, because she believed that this was her last moments. And I had to calm her down. Because if I didn't, he might, come back, or he might, put a more target on us, because he knew people were alive there. And people covered her mouth, but then she couldn't breathe, so we let go. But
in other words, don't make noise, don't get his attention.
Yeah, exactly, because he wanted people to scream in terror. At least from what I've heard, he kind of had that gratification. So we kind of were just don't do that. That's what they want. Be quiet, be quiet. And we were just calming her down the whole entire time. So yeah, I couldn't really focus on I wanted to. And I mean, at one point I did lose my cool. But it was for a second, I'm no, Sam, stop. Continue, just focus on what we have to do. We will get out of this. We got this. Just focus on Alea, call 911, do what you have to do. And I ended up calling 911. I spoke to them, and I told them the situation. I'm like,
So in the middle of all of this, you composed enough to call 911.
for some reason, yes, I was. He was still shooting when I called, but he wasn't in our classroom.
Okay, it was randomly, the bullets were just...
It was, I didn't have time to observe, or I wasn't concerned about that. I don't even know when I got hit. I don't even know how. I don't know any of that. All I know is I was trying to move closer and closer up. Possibly that's when.
Did you feel it?
I didn't feel the impact, but I knew something happened.
Okay.
I didn't know exactly, because I knew something happened enough for me to be hurt, because I felt, as I said, I felt like some liquid, so I knew I was hurt in some way, but I didn't think it was anything, really, because I didn't feel faint. I didn't feel like I was going to pass out. So I'm just like, okay, it must be minor. Let me just continue what I'm doing.
And you were shot twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, kind of. I was grazed, and then a fragment ricocheted into my chest. So I still kind of have fragments there. But yeah, it was kind of, technically, there was 2 bullets involved.
Okay.
Not only one, so it didn't go straight through. But there was this girl, her name was Caitlin. She was hiding behind this laptop cart. She was right next to my friend Helena, actually. She was holding her hand and just saying, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. But she was the one who told me that I got grazed. I knew something happened, but as I said, I thought it was minor and I didn't really focus on it. Wow. But I was on 911 calling, and she's like, you got grazed, you gotta check that out. And I'm like, okay. But I'm like, I'll deal with that later. But I'm like, okay. So I was talking on the phone to the attendants on the 911 line, and I'm just like, there's a shooting at my school. I'm in the freshman building. I didn't know what room we were in. I didn't have time to think that. So I'm just like, I'm in the freshman building somewhere. We're in Miss Seamus's class. That's all I really remembered. And then she's like, hold on the line, stay on the line, stay on the line. And I was shaking, but I was calm. Yeah. She said, no matter what, even if you have to drop the phone, stay on the line.
Wow.
And I didn't like how that sounded. So in my mind, I'm just like, I sincerely hope it doesn't come to that, because that means I would have a face-to-face conflict, or I would have to pretend something that I didn't want to pretend. So even during that time, I was thinking of ways to pretend, that I was dead. I'm just there's a lot of things rushing through your brain.
Yeah, just all these emotions, thoughts. What do I do next? What do I not do?
You're just trying to survive.
Right.
You're doing every animalistic instinct, or every any tiny anything. You just try. It's just coming back to you. From what you heard on the television, from what you heard, what people did, from previous incidents, everything is coming back to you at that moment. Just okay, so this is how people did to survive. Maybe if I do this, but unfortunately, it didn't have to come to that.
There's no checklist that you go through.
No, it's just let me do this now.
And what did you get out of the classroom? Well, how did you get out?
Well, we heard voices, a lot of voices, and we're just I was speculating, I'm like, what is that? So I thought it was the security guards at the school or something, and then I'm like, no, it has to be the police, or else they wouldn't come in here. But as I said, my friend, she was inconsolable. She's like, it's not the police. It's again, they're all together. And she was very paranoid and very distrusting, and so we heard them. And then, as I said, there was a window, and I could, if I moved my head enough, I could kind of see what's happening. So I got a little courage to just, move my head, and at the window, I seen, the SWAT team dressed in all black, had the helmets, had, the huge guns, but, I knew they weren't going to do anything with them, but they had the guns there. And then they were yelling at us, who's in here? Or is anyone injured? And we were telling them, yes, there's 30 people in here, or I forgot the number, but there's people in here, there's people injured, there's people... we don't know how badly they're hurt, and they're just okay, put your hands up. And I was holding my phone, and we all had to put our hands up, because at that time the shooter was still at large, unfortunately, so they didn't know if he came in the class and slipped in or anything. So they were suspicious of everyone, so I put my hand up. He knocked down the window, opened the door, and he said, who's injured? And I raised my hand, because as I said, I didn't feel anything, but she told me that I was injured, so I'm just I had doubt that I was injured enough to be seen, because I know there was other people that were more, but I'm just let me just get it over with. So I'm I raised my hand. he he held the gun to me, but I knew nothing was wrong because he was just being cautious. So he escorted me out to outside of the classroom. Then we went to there's a right side. There's 2 exits to the freshman building, so I went to the right one, and there was other people coming out of other classrooms, and we kind of just stood there for a second. There was a guard there. We just stood there. We were quite confused. Oh, are we safe? Are we not? Mm-hmm. And then he said, run. So I didn't. I ran. I've never run that fast in my life.
So the officer just said, run.
He said, run. So run. We ran to the. There's a street. We ran across the street to this hill.
But how many of you were running about that time? Just the ones in your classroom?
No, they didn't come out yet.
Oh, okay.
Because only the injured were taken out first, and I was one of the injured. So there was about 10 of us that were just kind of so what do we do now? And he said, run. And then of course all these guys passed me because they're faster. And I was just trying to run, and I ran. I didn't go across the street. I ran behind a truck.
Was there any smell of gunpowder in the air or anything?
Yeah, I'll never really forget that. There was it was a combination of a smoke bomb, because he said a smoke bomb, so to get the fire alarm going so people would leave. Mm-hmm. So he said a smoke bomb and the gunpowder. According to my friend, it was fireworks mixed with metal.
Okay.
I'll never forget the smell, but I don't know how to identify it, so I'll just say fireworks mixed with metal. But yeah, it was present. As I said, I didn't really bother too much I didn't retain it really too much, because I know it's a contradiction, but I didn't really retain it because I wasn't focused on it.
Right.
So I'm okay, that's a smell. Let me just focus on what I have at hand.
Trying to get out of the building. So at this time then, Helena is still in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't look okay. It didn't look good. Mm-hmm. The situation did not look good at all. I had a very strong premonition. I knew the situation didn't look good, but as I still cling, I clawed at that one thread of hope. I'm just in case, maybe a miracle. And I was praying to God for a miracle, because I knew it would take a miracle. And yeah, so I was that's the situation with Helena, but yeah.
How long was it before, were there students coming from other places at the same time, or they just, only the injured right now were coming out?
Well, the guy, there was one building which he really hit. The other students, they were on lockdown. So the rest of the school, besides my school, my area, they were on lockdown. So the people in those classrooms, those 5 classrooms, they were just taking care of the injured first, and then they were moving on. So the students were coming out, but just more the injured ones.
Talk about Helena a little bit here for us, because you made references to her quite a bit. Tell us about her, because you said, my friend Helena, she pushed me out of the way, and I believe I'm here because of what she did.
Yes.
How long have you known her?
Since 8th grade. So, I've known her since 7th grade, but we didn't become friends since 8th grade. We were in the same class, but I never really talked to her, only occasionally, being friendly. But in 8th grade, we sat next to each other in science, and then we talked. We were, doing what friends do, teasing other people. Not teasing, but making
Teenage
fun of their
things.
accents, So we were doing that. We, pretended we were certain people, and it was just teenager acting. Yeah, exactly. So we had a lot of jokes and a lot of other things.
But you were not just friends at school, you had a life outside of school.
Yes, we went on a cruise together in freshman year of high school. We went out to eat whenever, often. She was always here for my birthdays, always gave me gifts. Christmas, she came over once, give me gifts and whatnot. We had a pretty good friendship. We had inside jokes. We had, she was just a beautiful person in general. She was the sweetest of anyone I know. She was always caring. She was really accepting of who you are, even if you were completely nuts like I was. But she was very accepting of who you were. She didn't really discriminate. And she was always there to talk to. She gave really good advice.
Would she ever come to church with you?
Yes, actually. For a good, 2 months consecutively, every week she would come to church.
Wow.
And she enjoyed it for a while. It was nice because, we're a family at church, and we're very welcoming to everyone. And she was my good friend, so as soon as she came, all of my other friends there, they all welcomed her.
Samantha's friend is
Yeah,
here.
and they learned her name, then personality, and she was very, very special in all of our hearts.
And you're 17 and she was 17.
She was 17.
Now you're outside the school. They told you run. Where did you run to?
I ran behind a truck because during the class when things were, I was trying to call my parents, but I was on the phone with 911, so I couldn't hang up on them.
Right.
So I'm just like, Alea, can I borrow your phone? She said yes, but then she never actually gave it to me because she was one scared. So I'm just like, okay. So I knew I had to call them as soon as possible.
Right.
So I ran behind this big van truck thing, and I'm like, okay. I called them. I'm like, Mom, hello, and she was just like, hi, because she didn't know anything that was happening. It just happened. So I'm like, Mom, there was a shooting at school. I'm hurt, but I'm okay. It's okay. I'm fine. Everything's okay. If you don't see me, I'm in an ambulance on my way somewhere. I was hurt a little bit. Don't worry. I'm okay. And I was mostly focused on calming them because I didn't want them to, because my mom, she's very,
Reactive?
she's a mom,
A mom, exactly,
Mom.
concerned about her daughter.
Yeah, and my dad, I didn't want them to worry too much about anything that was really happening,
And where were you, Sally, when the call came through?
I was in the kitchen making a sandwich to take for her because I was going to pick her up at the park at 3 to take her for her SAT review.
Okay.
And then the phone rang. I saw her name came up and I said, hello, Samantha. And then I heard some noise in the background and she says, I'm hurt. I said, what are you talking about? And yeah, I'm hurt, but I'm going to be okay. There's a shooting at the school. I said, where are you? I ran out of the house and Jim drove. He was so good getting there as quickly. But I was barefooted, I was running. And I had even the towel over my shoulder, and it was just so scary. And when we got there now, and I decided to call her, then I realized that the battery had died. So and everyone was on their phone calling their children to see what happened. It was panic. Everyone was panicking. And then there was a gentleman standing beside us, and I borrowed his phone and I called Samantha. We didn't get her, but we left a message, and then she called back, and the gentleman gave me the phone and said it is her. And then she said, Mom, I'm on my way to North Broward Hospital.
Okay.
And so we went there.
So that's where you met up with your mom. Jim, you were driving. Give me an account of what you're thinking, because when you're driving and you hear the word shooting, and what's going through your mind?
It was the worst day of my life, the worst minute of my life. She's the most precious possession God gave us 17 years ago. And I love her beyond belief. And she's my life. She's my life. And I drove like a lunatic to get to the school. And there was police cars and ambulances all around. And I got within about a half a mile of the school, and they made us park the car. And we jumped out of the car, and we ran to the school. And I tried to get a phone. My phone has never been charged. I never had it not charged. In the 10 years I've had my phone, it went blank. It was out. It was on. I could not believe we couldn't get to her. I asked the policeman could I borrow his phone? He said, no. I says, can I go in? No, you can't. You got to stay back here. We had no idea.
So you felt helpless, pretty much.
No idea what was going on. And the people are running toward the school. All the parents were going crazy. Nobody knew anything that was going on. We just knew the cops and the helicopter. And it was just, I finally borrowed a phone from this nice guy. He let me take the phone, and we called her. And I think you took the phone and spoke to Samantha, and she said she was on the way to the hospital. I said, what hospital? North Broward. I said, that's all I wanted to know. Hung up the phone. I said, come on, let's go. We ran back to the car. And all I know is North Broward is about 20 minutes from where we were. But the traffic was backed up. It was unbelievable. And I says, I can't take this. And I went in the other lane. I hope the police aren't listening to this. I went in the other lane and just drove like a madman. I went through the lights, and she's screaming, what are you take it easy, take it easy. P.S. I got to the school in probably 10, 15 minutes.
I mean, to the hospital.
To the hospital. I passed the ambulance, I passed everybody, and we got to the ambulance. We got to the hospital.
But the trauma, you're going through trauma now also, both of you are. So you guys finally got to the hospital. Were there a lot of cars at the hospital? Was the hospital, was it showing any signs of the trauma that was happening? Or did you see other people rushing there?
There was all kinds of havoc going on at the hospital. And what really upset me is I heard she was okay, because I had spoken to her, but I just didn't believe it. I wasn't sure. And what really bothered me was when there was a police officer saying, all right, all family from the school, go down that aisle and go into that room. There was about 7 desks with women sitting there with paperwork. What's the name? And it was Samantha Grady. No, she didn't come in yet. I says, okay, she left the hospital like an hour ago. No, she didn't come in yet. Okay, thank you. And we're standing around, and a lady walks in and says, Samantha, I got Samantha Grady. We said, that's us. So she took us up to the room.
And so, Samantha, when you see your parents, tell us about that moment.
I was laying down, and I was just like, okay. I was getting calls from everybody. They were like, are you okay? I was confirming I'm fine. And then at one point, emotions came, everything came back. I finally let myself kind of have emotional anything.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And I started bawling. And then the ambulance were just like, it's okay, it's fine. But one thing I do distinctly remember is we were at the hospital. And all I was literally singing. I didn't want to embarrass myself because I'm just I'm kind of in a situation, but I was singing, God will take care of you.
Wow.
The whole time. I knew I was fine, but over and over, I'm like, be not dismayed, wherever the fall, God will take care of you. And then I was singing the chorus. It was my dad's favorite song. So I'm just singing it over and over again. And then they're just like, it's gonna be okay. And I'm just like, let me sing. So I was just
in the
singing
ambulance.
it. Yeah.
Amen.
And
Wow.
even when I was in the trauma room, when they were, putting the IVs in, checking if I was okay, I was just like, God will take care of you. And I was singing over and over. And the personnel there, they were kind of looking at me strangely. I'm just like, let me just sing. Stop looking at me. I don't care. I'm gonna sing.
Amen.
They tried to calm me down.
Because you knew.
Yeah.
Because you knew. I just felt that. Because you knew that you were not there because God had overlooked you. And it's one of those sour moments, but the sweet moments, because you're thinking of your friend Helena. And as you had this emotional reality check, okay, I navigated out of that. The Lord guided me. He protected me. But my friend's gone. What happened when you thought about that?
Well, as I was saying, I left before Helena was checked.
You didn't know at that time?
I didn't know. I figured, and I was kind of sure, but as I said before, I was holding on to so I'm just maybe they got her out, maybe the miracle happened while I wasn't looking, because I was on my way out. So as soon as I was taken care of, people were trying to distract me, but I was like, any news on this girl named Helena Ramsey? She has a mole right here, and I was describing her to everybody, and then they were like, no, we don't see her, because she wasn't at that hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, we don't see her. And then my parents came in, and I was so happy to see them, but I couldn't, I'm not gonna cry because they are gonna be worried. So I'm just I was smiling and I'm like, I'm okay, I'm fine. And I was trying to not lighten, but like I was trying to be like, I'm okay, it's
Trying to
okay.
be the strong one in the moment.
Yeah, and my dad, his worry was all over his face. He just came in, rushed to my side. I'm just like, hi, I'm here, I'm fine, I'm okay. And then my mom, she came in, and I'm like, I was holding her arm. I'm like, I'm fine, I'm here, I'm okay.
And so there you are. The medical team is giving you. When did you find out what had actually happened to Helena?
So I was discharged from the hospital. Like everyone from church came. Like it was surprising how much people. It wasn't surprising, but it was just like, oh my goodness.
The news traveled so
yeah,
quickly.
it was really, really quickly.
People just stopped their lives and just came to your side.
Yeah, it's great because they're my brothers and sisters. They're my family. My second family. So we.
A lot of hugging and, are you okay?
Oh, well, not hugging because I was kind of like, but they were like, as soon as they came in, I started crying and then my Helena's best friend, she grew up with her. Like me and her were close, but like this girl, they were in like diapers together. She came in, like she is very strong, I have to say that. She came in and I was bawling. As soon as I seen her, I was bawling. Because she was the first person who, besides my parents, after her, she was the first person who I called, or who called me. She's the first person who called me after the incident. Because she was like, she knew me and Helena were in the same room. And I'm like, it does not look good, but keep hoping and keep praying. So she came into the hospital room and I was just like, I started bawling and I asked for a hug and I'm like, any news, any news, any news? She's like, no, we can't find her. We came to this hospital, but she's not here. And they literally went everywhere to find her. And then I went to bed because it was like 1 in the morning and I had to go and we had to do the interview with NBC that morning at like 6. So
they discharged you?
Yeah, they discharged me at like 7:30-ish. I wasn't in there for a long time, but I was sleeping and I kept asking, like, give me any updates. And then Helena's mom, she was the one who texted me. She's like, I'm sorry to say this, but Helena passed away yesterday. Sam, she loved you very much. And like for a moment there, I was just, like it's not that I had no emotion. I was just.
Is this real?
I had to process everything. I didn't know what to think, and then my mom was like sleeping right next to me because it was a traumatic experience and they didn't want me to sleep by myself. So I started crying, and then like my mom woke up and she's just like, what's happening? And I'm like, and I showed her the text and she's like, oh no. And then I started recounting everything that I did with like Helena, how she was amazing, how like it's just her personality, all the fun things that we did, like everything I was recounting to my mom, and I was crying, and that whole night I couldn't really sleep after that. And then during the night I kept getting phone calls from all of Helena's friends, and like Em called me, which was her best friend who she grew up with. They all called me and they were all crying, and I'm like, how is this is real? Like what? It was more of like, it was very like I was trying to process everything.
Because you don't think of losing a friend at 17.
No, you don't. You definitely don't.
And how long before that had you guys celebrated her birthday?
Well, my birthday we celebrated on the Sunday.
Just the Sunday before?
The Sunday before, so like 3 or 4 days before. And then her birthday was a month before. She's a month older than me. She was a month older than me. So we celebrated her birthday, but I gave her a shirt, because we were into like Korea and whatnot. So I gave her a shirt talking about like K-drama, and okay. she took pictures of it, using like emoji, like cute like filters and whatnot, and like that's what we did for her birthday. But the last not the last time I seen her, but the time that I celebrated something with her was the Sunday before.
So all of a sudden, this close friend, your comrade, in and out of school, is no longer here. 17 years old is not the time. I looked at some of the news, and there are a lot of people that are going through pain. Parents, some of the children range in age 14, 15, 16. 2 or 3 adults, I think, were also tragically victimized by this shooting. But a lot of young people, when you think of your age, you think, okay, I'm planning for college. Were you and her talking about kind of school do you want to go together?
Well, not together.
But
She,
kinda-
yeah, she wanted to go back to England because like that's where she was born.
Oh, in England?
Yeah,
Okay.
so she wanted to do school there, something abroad, because she's just like, America's just not for me at the moment. So she wanted to do something abroad. She wasn't anti-American. She just
Right,
didn't
but
like.
just
She's
not
like,
her home.
it wasn't her home. So she wanted to go abroad, London, Spain, like something in Europe. So they were looking into that, and I wanted to stay here, Nova or Andrews or something. So we would be separated for college, but like. We were, I mean, it's the time of the year and it's the time of our lives where we discuss college a lot. So that was most of our conversation, you know.
But
where
bestie
you
friends
going.
anyway,
Yeah.
no matter what the distance was.
Of course, of course.
Boy, so how has that impacted your life now? Because you're going to be getting ready for college. You're going to be taking your SATs, practicing for that pretty soon here, and you think of, because there are a lot of young people that are probably listening to this interview, because this story has just rippled throughout the nation, and I would say throughout the world, and because 3ABN is a worldwide network, it's being seen in countries where this kind of thing doesn't happen. What do you say to young people that say, well, you know, I've got a lot of time. I mean, I'm just a teenager. What's the message?
If this whole experience has proved anything, it's that we don't have a lot of time. Like, not necessarily a lot of time, but not as much time as you think. Because, like, not even me, but like I know a lot of people are just like, oh, you know, I'll wait. I'm at this stage in my life where I have to focus on school. I mean, God is there, but you know, I have to do this. I have to, you know, and they make a lot of like sacrifices for like their faith. And not only that, but like they're just a lot of people that I've come in contact they're not really like, they're just like the foundation, like God is there, God is present, but they don't have a close relationship with God. And I admit, like at one point I was low-key like that as well. But it's just like God was there, but he just wasn't a forefront in our lives. And out of this whole experience, God should be, he should be the center and the focus, because you should have that, not surety, but you should not be scared of what's going to happen to you.
That's right.
Like when you die, like when, you know, the resurrection and whatnot, like you should not be scared of what's going to happen to you. You should know.
Have an assurance.
You should have an assurance, not necessarily like a full assurance, but you should have like, be like not scared of death, or not scared of, you should know God. That's like, just go closer to him. Although it's like challenging now and like everything is against it, especially now, you know, religious is like, people being religious is bad. Just cling to God, because he literally is the only thing that can like help you.
So your relationship with Jesus now, and that prayer life, that was, as you said earlier, maybe a routine. Okay, let's do this. I'm on my way to school. Mom's going to pray with me. We're going to go. Now all of a sudden you look back at that with a completely different viewpoint. It's like it means something to me now. And not that it didn't mean anything, but now it has a stronger staple. It's like, yeah, God is available to the 17-year-old, to the 14-year-old, to the teenager, in a world where there's so much instability, where, okay, let's get to the media part of life, where my phone is like my right hand, not really my Bible. You know, my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, my Snapchat, all these types of things are just so much a part of my life, the technical aspect. But then when you hear gunshots, those things all of a sudden, they don't matter anymore. It's a moment that life, you know, one of the questions I want to ask you is, you know, you came face to face with something that most people would never have to experience. Your life could be decided by the next pull of a trigger. How has that impacted you? Tell me, has it made you stronger? Has it made you weaker? What kind of impact has it had on you?
To be honest, I'm not like sure. I mean, at the moment, I'm like kind of everywhere.
Still sorting it out?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess in a way it'll have like two different effects, because stronger emotionally, stronger, you know, more really with my relationship with God, but weaker in the sense that, like, you know, it's a daunting situation someone has to face, and, you know, any kind of like reminder of that is not necessarily a good one, and like the emotions that'll arise. So it's I mean, in a way, it's going to make me stronger as a person.
Right.
But it's just, things are always going to come back to you. And that's not necessarily weak, but it's just like...
A reminder.
It's
a
a
reminder of the
reminder.
experience. In other words, it's like that tag that just keeps hitting your window when the wind blows, or like the chimes that keep blowing every time the storm. You hear the chimes, but you think it's the storms that make me remember the chimes are outside. And sometimes life comes, and the chimes are beautiful. They make wonderful sound, but you don't hear them unless the storm comes. And God's voice is sometimes like that. He's the chimes in the midst of a terrible storm. He reminds you that you may not pay attention to me because there's no wind blowing, but now you hear me and I'm here.
Yep.
Excuse me, the first thing, when Samantha came home, the first thing I heard her say is, now I'm convinced I want to be a doctor. We're looking for a medical school because she wants to be a doctor, but she says, I am so convinced after seeing these kids, they need help. She went around checking their pulse.
Talk about that. That's interesting.
So she says they need her, and she's convinced now she wants to be a physician. Right, sweetie?
Yes. During the ordeal, I was in the classroom, and as I was saying, the person who laid down next to me, it was kind of a little obvious because his eyes were open. He was just like not staring at anything, but I checked his pulse, and I didn't know if I was doing it right because I don't know anything about that, and I checked his pulse here and I didn't feel anything, and I checked his pulse here and I didn't feel anything, and then I'm just like, there was the girl who was right next to Helena, she also checked Helena's pulse. And she also didn't feel anything, but I didn't trust it because I'm like, we're kids, what do we know about pulsing? And I never actually found a pulse on a real person before, so I'm just like, I probably don't know anything. But I told her, I don't think so, and she's like, okay. So I did check people's pulse. I checked his pulse, and I mean, just the whole ambulance ride, when I seen them helping, there was 2 of us in the ambulance. When I seen them helping her, keeping her calm, knowing what to do, and all of the lingo that they were using, I'm just like, not only necessarily just to be smart and understand the lingo, but I have to become a doctor, not just because I have to. Helping people was always my main goal as a doctor. I always wanted to open or work at a free clinic, whenever I got situated, so I can help
You might
people.
even work in the trauma unit because you were so composed in the midst of this trauma.
Yeah, I may. I don't know where life is gonna take me, where God's gonna take me, but there's a whole bunch of possibilities, but all I know for sure is that I do want to be a doctor now.
Now, on a different side of this whole incident, because this was something perpetrated by a former student, people look back in the media, there are 3 stories, what the media has found out so far, what the person himself knows, and then the third side of that, what would you say to the person that maybe knows of someone who maybe is attending a school that has erratic behavior or may be displaying tendencies to be violent, and they're not really, what would you say to them? What kind of reactions should they, what are their responsibilities?
Well, I don't want to be blunt and say get them help, but in a way you kind of have to. Just be aware of who they are. Keep a watch on them, but don't wait until something happens because, you don't know when it's going to happen, right. But there's always this point where there's a possibility. Just make sure that they talk to someone, make sure that there's someone in their life, be a friend to them. Because many times people who have these tendencies or who do these awful tragedies, they're the ones who are by themselves. They get bullied. They're the ones who, they have no friends. That's what makes them go off. Not all the time, but that's the common factor in all of them, that they have no friends, and they have traumatic things happening in their lives, and with parents, and so just be a friend to them. Don't discriminate against anybody. Be there for a person because you don't know exactly what's going on, and although they may be crazy, and although you don't want to associate yourself with someone like that, just be nice. You don't have to be their friend, just be nice to them. Okay. Be cordial. make sure that if they start displaying things to you, make sure that you tell someone. Don't be like, oh, I can take care of this by myself.
That's good. Tell someone.
Because you don't know, maybe the other person has more resources to help the situation and to, seal the problem.
Like a teacher.
Like a teacher or a principal or a guidance counselor or a parent.
Because sometimes young people think, I don't want to tattle, I don't want to be the talebearer, I don't want to be the one that's everybody saying, Samantha's going to tell, Samantha's going to tell. But in moments like these, sometimes that's a stopgap. That's the way that people find out. As you go from this point, what one final thing you would say to those listening to this interview?
Well, as I was saying before, trust God. He will always be there for you. Just cherish those around you. Where you stand with God, know where your heart lies, know where your attentions are. Don't have anything really kind of distracting you from having a relationship with God, because in the end, those are the important things: friends, family, and God. God is the most important.
That's right.
But, you still have to have, just put pride aside and just talk to people, have a relationship and just know God. That's pretty much it. Just have a relationship with God.
Samantha, good to see you growing up so wonderfully. We're going to pray for your healing, for your recovery. And for those of you who have been watching this program, we just want you to know here at 3ABN, we believe in the story of redemption, the story of God can heal, God can recover, God can restore. We're praying still for the families that lost their sons and daughters at Douglas High School here in Parkland, Florida. But we know that as we keep trusting God and living each day with the reality that He is coming soon, the healing will take place in eternity for Samantha and for all of those who are now having to go on with that empty space in their lives. We always pray and ask God to guide us, and our prayers for you is that you will know, as Samantha has come to discover, that Christ is the most important one that we need to have in our lives. So for those of us here at 3ABN and for the Grady family, thank you for taking the time to tune in. This is John Lomacang. Until we see you again, may the Lord bless you.